TA as an individual, supporting mass transit, including light rail. Mass transit is a basic infrastructure that is necessary and required for a prosperous society. It's something that's just basic to our country. The U.S. is behind other industrialized countries in terms of mass transit, and particularly rail transport. Other countries have magnetic levitation or maglev trains, and we are far behind in this area. In my opinion, we should have started developing these things 30 to 40 years ago, so I think we're 30 to 40 years behind. I recently traveled, well, actually about a year ago, last year in May, my father died, and I traveled back to the Minneapolis-St. Paul area for the first time in over 20 years, where I'm originally from. And in the 20 years that I was gone and had not visited that area, I was very pleasantly surprised to see that the Minneapolis area had developed a wonderful light rail system. It did not exist at all when I lived there previously. And it's wonderful. It's great. It's a big asset to that area. This is something that didn't even exist when I lived there. I come back to the Tampa Bay area and I find none of that here. None of that. We need trains. This is for economic growth. People that cannot afford insurance and gasoline and maintenance and the cost of an individual vehicle such as a car need this kind of transportation. Also, it's a boon to the economy in another way. For instance, the author Scott Turow, who wrote the book Presumed Innocent, it was turned into a major motion picture, he wrote that entire novel while he was using mass transit back and forth to work. Now that is a better way to use your time rather than driving a car and sitting in traffic, I would submit. Also, we are at a critical point with climate change. We're already at 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Lots of people have come to a consensus that 350 parts per million is the maximum we're going to be able to sustain without severe and terrible climate change, which is happening now. We are at 400 now. We need this kind of infrastructure to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to further mitigate the severe effects that climate change is going to have in the coming decades. Also, it's a national security issue. All it takes for a major disruption of the oil supply worldwide is for the Straits of Hormuz to be mined, and that will cause a major disruption in world oil supply. There's a very tight difference between supply and demand right now. That'll cause oil prices to skyrocket, and this will be nothing like the oil shocks we saw in '73 and in previous years. This will be very severe. There's one choke point in the world, and that's it, and it's very easy to shut off. This shows how dependent we are on fossil fuels. We need transportation infrastructure. This is a rich country.